Yes, ready for the change of what? Scenery, music. You know, it was surprising how hard it was to find a big article with all the comic book news from New York Comic Con. It was amazing. Like everybody apparently needed to do more than one content creation out of it. It was crazy. I thought I would find just like a master article about it. I read so many things and I wanted to talk not about everything, but some of it. And man, I was surprised to say the least. But anyways, hello everyone. Welcome to another week of comic books with me, your alleged or potential friend Carlz. Basically, now I cannot not talk about news, right? Recently finished. When did it end? I think last weekend was New York Comic Con, and they talk about a lot of things. And well, I don't want to talk about all of them, but I do want to mention some of them. So I will add some of them to this week's recommendations, which I always say it's hype, but now I think it's a little bit more mild. So might as well talk about some news coming out from New York Comic Con. Of course, only focused on comics, and there were some that I could have talked a little bit more, like the crossover between Something is Killing the Children and Swamp Thing, which is something quite awesome. But like, yeah, I'm gonna focus on just a couple of things for the sake of time and for the sake of my own interest. So let's put this in number one and let's begin. So first thing I wanna talk about is the announced new Iron Man run. I've been waiting for a new Iron Man run for quite some time, to be honest. I haven't been particularly a fan of the last Iron Man runs. I think they have been all over the place, and for some reason, whenever I remember, like, I don't know, like Matt Fraction's run or something like that, they are always these Iron Man, not on the run, but like in the case, like doing something really particular. And I've always stated more than once that I've always loved when Iron Man includes the armor and the continuous legacy of the character. It seems that the one thing that is beyond Iron Man as a character is like he bears this cross, right? The responsibility of that was properly portrayed in the movie in Iron Man 1, right? That he bears the cross of being an arms dealer, and now he has this big change of heart. So in different stages of the character's publication, we have seen a lot of stories about him, I don't know, facing the leak of his designs, or like I don't know, enemies that were created because of his creations. Like that is the constant burden that Iron Man as a character and Tony Stark as a character have brought. And it seems that this new Iron Man run, written by Joshua Williamson with art by Carmen Carnero, you can see there in the preview the brand new Mark 75. The preview is really interesting. It shows Madame Mask kidnapping like inventors like throughout the world, I guess, and forcing them to recreate what, like the original Iron Man, right? The gray one. So you are like in prison, you are forced to create, like she's trying to recreate that sort of spark of magic. And this is no small thing, because well, Madame Mask has been even Iron Man's lover at some point. And Madame Mask has the latest, like what, 5 years or so, has been a character that's been brought into a more mystery than usual about her identity and everything like that. So if she's gonna be the main villain of this new Iron Man book, yeah, it's highly interesting. Not only that, like the fact that they are bringing a new armor design, I mean, it's not necessarily something that's gonna be important. They often fumble the ball with when the armor is the main character. or not the main character, but one of the main characters. So recently, Iron Man built the Mysterium armor, right? That I suppose that now is Mark 74. It was this armor that he made to fight. What was it, like magic or something? It had this new metal kind that was discovered by mutants. It was like a big thing for a while, and then they just forgot about it. What I'm trying to say is that for me, every Iron Man book needs to strike this balance between the armor, between the cross that the character bears. It has to be funny, it has to be action packed. I might be highly demanding about it, but at least I know. I mean, they already said that War Machine is gonna be involved. Pepper Potts is coming back, a character that, even though we saw her a lot during the Marvel Cinematic Universe ride of the character, we haven't seen her in the comics for quite some time. So, starting the new year with a new Iron Man, can't be that bad. Recently, the author has been in charge of G.I. Joe. I think I praise a little bit of G.I. Joe for its sort of mix between the spy element and the action element that is completely attached to the fact that it's a Energon Universe book. But let's say the action and the story have been interesting. I don't know if that's a good comparing point for Iron Man, but Joshua Williamson with like a huge resume on DC, like writing Iron Man. Yeah, at least it can have some suspense in it. And if there is a suspenseful character on Marvel, I think Madame Mask is one of them. Did they ever reveal who she was? Let me do a quick. Did they do it? I think they do it once and then they retcon it. I think, but I keep forgetting about it. I think in one story she was like the daughter of like a mobster. I don't know, but fuck it. Fuck it. The whole point of it is that it's a mysterious character and it's like ideal for like a thriller kind of story. I wish they have talked a little bit more about the armor. Certainly looks pretty cool, and like the traditional yellow and red, man, that never goes out of style, isn't it? So cool. But anyways, another news announcement from Marvel's DC, Marvel's DC. From Marvel's panel in New York Comic Con was another preview of the Infernal Hulk. Man, I'm so looking forward to the Infernal Hulk. Like, I just am. They said that what was the thing they said? They said like this was going to be like the most violent series, like super like putting it to the extreme. Like if I tell you like, oh man, I'm going to the extreme with this, you wanna believe it, right? I mean, I've been talking about the Hulk for quite some time now. I think it's fair to say that this news is part of like what I call the updated ongoing things. I don't know, but they released this clear look that I personally haven't seen of the Infernal Hulk. Looks gnarly as fuck and like nothing, like not even remotely heroic. I really want to know where they are going with this. I've been reading the Hulk, but like staying a little bit away from spoilers. So even for this announcement and for me talking about the news, it's only to talk about what they said is gonna be violent. That is the one thing that I wanna rescue. Like if I was like what 13 years old or something. Like yo, dude, it's gonna be so violent and extreme. But if you wanna give some, I don't know, layers or context to it, the Hulk is never violent just because, right? The horror metamorphosis that the Hulk has had, it has always to be a contrast to something else. And I said this when I talk about horror movies. It's always a contrast with something else. It's not just violence because it's violent. But if you choose to do something more explicit and more aggressive, perhaps the contrast you want to make with it is also like a more impactful contrast. Right? I can wait for the Immortal Hulk. But what else did Marvel show? The already known end of the Marvel, I mean the Ultimate Universe. This is like a bittersweet sort of announcement. They kept mentioning the whole Jonathan Hickman 2-year plan, and like, was it 2 years? Like, honestly, didn't feel like 2 years to me. To me, it didn't feel like 2 years, and even though many of the books had like great reception, especially, of course, Ultimate Spider-Man, which was my favorite also. I enjoyed some Ultimate X-Men, but like everything was a little bit too broad, and like it didn't really aim at the core, which was in the Ultimates, right? Which were the group of heroes trying to undo whatever the maker did. All the other books didn't really like settle into that main argument. They went in their own way, and they tried to sort of like a little bit like doing an Elseworld type of book. Okay, imagine these characters in this other circumstance, and that's it. So as it comes to an end by the end of the year, I don't know. Apparently, part of the whole kind of like end of the Ultimate Universe is that, or at least they said so, that it was gonna have some impact on 616, the regular Marvel Comics universe. I think that is the big takeaway of the end of the Ultimate Universe. I don't know if it's gonna I don't know what's going to be, right? I don't know if they're gonna bring other characters besides Miles Morales, who is obviously coming back to the 616. You know, to me, the whole Ultimate kind of revival, to me, it seemed short-lived and, well, short most of it. The whole Jonathan Hickman 2-year plan, I don't know if I see it. I don't know if I'd see it because it's just this one story on the Ultimates, and the other books just being like an alternative, sort of like an absolute. If we compare what the Absolute Universe is doing with in DC with what the Ultimate did on Marvel, I think we are seeing like night and day, with a couple of exceptions. And how good were the Ultimates and Ultimate Spider-Man? They didn't reach that alternative universe status that the Absolute Universe has reached. So I guess it's bye-bye to them. And, well, hopefully it would mean something like more important for the rest of the Marvel universe. Though I really doubt it. If I wanted one of the current Ultimate characters to jump back to 616, who would that be? That's an interesting perspective. There's no way that Ultimate Spider-Man is not gonna be on some upcoming like 11th million time Spider-Verse event. There's no way he's not gonna come back. But the rest, I enjoy the Dictator X-Men a little bit in the whole Winter Soldier Logan thing, but I don't know. My feeling is that they it didn't reach the heights that they expected, so they were like, okay, let's just finish the main book and be done with it. Which is fair in the end. Let's go to some more news. Is it a joke news of the day? I don't know. Part of me likes to think about the Jar Jar Renaissance. You know, when they brought the Ahmed. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correct, but when they brought the Jar Jar actor in that, which was like 2 years ago in some Star Wars celebration, they brought him back and like people cheered and clapped and like the guy then went like, oh, I felt the love and everything. Man, they say time cures all hurt, ailments, scars. I don't know, but like once he came back and he had this part as a Jedi in, what was it, Obi-Wan? I don't remember, but like he came back as a Jedi, or in maybe in the Mandalorian. I feel like Jar Jar is having his renaissance, and since there are so many Marvel Star Wars comics right now and books and everything, I think it was a pleasant surprise to hear that Jar Jar is gonna have his own tiny little solo book. Especially it's gonna be about, like, what did they say in the preview, like the consequences of what he did to help Chancellor Palpatine, or Chancellor Palpatine. So it's gonna be between episode 2 and 3 maybe, or 3 and 4. I don't know, but it's good that Ahmed Best, or the actor who portrayed it, is behind it too, or like involved in some capacity. The main writer is Mark Guggenheim. I mentioned him before because I love the Arrowverse, and he was behind that. Despite the good and the bad, it was overall a good thing. But I don't know. When I talk about the current Star Wars ongoing books in Marvel, I always compare them to like the pinnacle of it, which has been and was Darth Vader, the Darth Vader comic book. I don't know, like the capacity of filling the empty spaces with something interesting that like feels that it belongs in that spot, expands that spot, and it's ultimately funny and entertaining on its own, has proven to be quite difficult. I don't hate the all the Marvel, I mean the Star Wars comics that Marvel had released. I don't hate them, but I think they're like meh at best. Except Darth Vader, and it was because it was such a big character, and it has so much space for developing stories and fillers for his character, emotional fillers, story fillers, depth fillers. Can you do the same with Jar Jar? A joke character, like he was always a joke character. I think the issue was that people hated on him too much. I think that was the issue. He was never like, he never deserved that much hate. Well, I guess the whole point of the discussion is to say like, yeah, a Jar Jar comic book. Is it gonna be like serious? Is it gonna be fruitful for the character? I don't know. But as I said, as a sort of like renaissance of the character, it's gonna be okay. Next piece of news. Of course, we live on a world where like the future is the present, you can say somehow. So during the Comic-Con they announced the new era. Now the X-Men, they work on eras, right? The Shadows of Tomorrow era. The Age of Revelation has just begun. I've read a couple of issues of it, and the whole time skip. I said in previous before that all of these future elements, they always have repercussions on the present, and apparently Shadows of Tomorrow, as an initiative, is gonna be that. They have acknowledged that. And they say that this is a direct fallout of it. But looking at the at the main titles they announced under the era of Shadows of Tomorrow, We have Wolverine, of course, the X-Men, the Uncanny X-Men. Thank God they didn't change this book, because Gail Simone, as I said, this is my favorite X-Men book. Um, what else? There's another Only X-Men that's gonna feature bad guys. Inglorious X-Force. Like they rebranded, or like they released so many of these books for this new sort of like era of the X-Men. They didn't say that how the Age of Revelation is gonna affect all of this. Like not even the solo book that Cyclops is getting. So it's kind of strange. I don't see myself like going hard into one of these books because of Age of Revelation. They just seems to be like new number one for good characters that you like. Generation X-23 with Laura and Gabby. Even the fucking Deadpool. Who's doing Deadpool now? Benjamin Percy. So it's gonna be, they said, a more serious Deadpool. Or like the solo book for Cyclops, he's gonna be like lost in the wilds or something. I don't know. The point is, the Age of Revelation is going to supposedly affect all of these books. But if there's like books to look forward during this Child of Tomorrow, it will be of course the X-Men, Rogue. They say like they're bringing Mystique and Destiny back, and those characters they always big characters, like they know everything that's going on. But the main issue is that they said that there's gonna be one X-Men that's gonna be stranded in the Age of Revelation. So I guess that's a way of them to tell us you gotta read all of them. You gotta read all of them. So often I don't agree with like announcing these things so soon, but since Age of Revelation is a time skip sort of event, it's good to see what's coming next, because it basically shows you which characters you should have a little bit more focus while reading Age of Revelation. So if we know Wolverine is getting a solo book, Cyclops, Rogue, they're bringing like the bad guys, and like they're teaming Magneto with Cassandra Nova. So we know what we want to look when we're reading the Age of Revelation, which is just begun. As I said, I think I read one title of it. So Shadows of Tomorrow is the next age of the X-Men. Let's get ready for all the people criticizing everything and like shit. I don't know. I love the X-Men, as I said. So I'm probably gonna sink my teeth into all of them, for sure. The final piece of news, and this was kind of like a weird, which was the DC panel, right? A couple of revelations came to me, Age of Revelation, from the whole DC's panel. First was that apparently they have been struggling. I had no idea. I never get into the whole commercial thing of the commercial side of it. I only care about stories. So I never really pay too much attention of it. But apparently the fact that All In is gonna be replaced by what is it? It's called Next Level in 2026. Apparently, it has to do with the fact that the All In initiative wasn't as successful as they thought. And curiously enough, during the DC event, they announced so many titles, but like they didn't announce who's doing what and how, which was really strange. They announced just a bunch of names. I have the list around here of people that are gonna be working on it: Jeff Lemire, Tony Fleeks, Jamal Campbell, Joshua Williamson, Mariko Tamaki, Dennis Camp. So we know these names. These are like house names, but they didn't say who is doing who, except with a couple of exceptions that I had written down here. Greg Rucka is doing Batwoman, and Scotty Young is doing Lobo. And Scotty Young, I think he announced that on his socials, right? But Batwoman, Barbara Gordon, like a book called Barbara Gordon. The demon is Etrigan coming back. I love Etrigan. Firestorm, Shadows of the Bat, like a Batman book, and they didn't say what's going to be about. You know, it's strange. If you tell me Scotty Young is doing Lobo, okay, gonna be some funny stuff. But how does this relate to the end of KO? I just talk about how Shadows of Tomorrow it gives you sort of like a compass on how to read the Age of Revelation. I don't know if these announcements do the same for KO. I don't think they do at all. And I don't think they show a clear state of future stuff for DC. As I said, I didn't know they were doing poorly in sales for many of the titles, or that some of them were getting canceled. I just read the stories, and when they end abruptly, I just assume that they did poorly, or like some weird stuff happened. They just ended. Fuck it. But if you show me this state of the new stuff for DC, I don't know what to think about it. Many of these characters I really like. Well, I don't care for Firestorm or Lobo, nor for Deathstroke. But I like Satana. I like Etrigan, if they're referring to Etrigan with the demon. But of course, it's Barbara Gordon and Batwoman. I love those characters. And to me, that is the most interesting title of them all. Barbara Gordon Breakout. What the hell does that fucking mean, man? What the hell does that mean? And we had a recent run. Batwoman was part of that team that Luke Fox had, right? What was its name? They were like kind of like science warriors or something. They had like Batwoman without her. Like she had short hair, I think. And we also had her recently in the Justice League or Limited era, getting back with the Question. That was interesting too. But man, I miss the supernatural Batwoman, and I wish we knew what Barbara Gordon Breakout was going to be about. I wish. Let's just say they just said like, okay, KO is gonna be a big thing, and this is what's gonna come out of it. I don't see the connection as much as the X-Men show with the Age of Revelation, or with the end of the Ultimate Universe, the possibilities that are there. I don't see the connection. I don't see it. But whatever, that's their problem, not mine. Okay, let's move on from news to recommendations. Let's take a break from Marvel and DC to talk a little bit about IDW Dark, the imprint in IDW that is focused on terror. Does anyone remember the movie 30 Days of Night? Shit, I sure didn't remember it. I don't even remember whether it was good or bad, like at all. But apparently this sequel in the form of a comic book is coming out, which is called 30 Days of Night Falling Sun, and it's written by Rodney Barth, which is an author that has been doing vampires for like the past like 6 years, and he does these topical vampires. They're like always related to something cultural, and they're always like really, I don't want to say like the classic complex type of vampires, but they are not just like pulsional vampires out of violence and hunger. They're like, as I said, topical. And as I recall 30 Days of Night as a movie, I remember all I remember was the feeling of claustrophobic, like the claustrophobic context it achieves. So I found it really interesting. So I'm gonna try to read this book for sure. I don't remember the movie. It might be a good time to give it a rewatch, right? Because these vampires, if I remember correctly, in the movie they had like a society, and they were like a culture or something. I don't know. But I don't want to talk too much about the what was the name of shit. I'm confusing my horror movies now. But anyways, any sequel to a decent horror movie in comic book form, to me, it's a welcome sight to see. So 30 Days of Night, Falling Sun by IDW. Next recommendation. This is the update moment. What did I call it? An update? I think so. So finally, they revealed that in the Amazing Spider-Man that the Spider-Man that was the violent Spider-Man was none other than Norman Osborn, and that Peter Parker was out in space doing some weird shit. The big update here is not who the Spider people were, but the fact that this current run of the Amazing Spider-Man is leading not only to the Legacy 1000, but the event they also announced during New York Comic Con, the crossover event between Spider-Man and Venom. How exactly will the fact that Norman Osborn has been Spider-Man this time is going to affect that? I don't think that much, but from a narrative point of view, like all of these people come together to represent Spider-Man while he's out in space trying to find himself. I think it's pretty interesting. It's not the classic Spider-Man is down, then he goes up, Spider-Man is down, then he goes up. It's not that classic thing. It's a little bit more complex and more involved. It has so many characters attached to it. So many that you almost even forget that Peter Parker is not on Earth. I have this saying that to me the most comforting thing about comics is like wondering what Spider-Man doing each week. But now we know. Next recommendation. The current run on Captain America by none other than Chip Zdarsky has been quite interesting. They did this thing when they sort of like update the character by telling a story from the past, but some like in a modern perspective. So Captain America is battling Doctor Doom for the first time. He's like simplified. He simplified himself to his core values, and there have been so many interesting exchanges in this book because Captain America went like, okay, the present is too complicated for me. I'm just gonna go back to my roots and I'm just gonna think about my like I'm America, I'm like freedom. So that is a way of not retconning a story, but like infusing new energy to it. You know, because we all know that Captain America's ideas are like outdated, like freedom for the sake of freedom and justice. That shit does not exist on our neoliberal hellhole that we call Earth. Like that thing don't exist. So a way of not reconnecting a character but like refreshing it is like, okay, let me take my base ideas and face this like really good and properly like crafted modern reality. What they have done in this book is creating an historical context that challenges Captain America's ideals under a modern light, and it's been like great. It's been great and quite curious at some points, because he does seem like a modern guy. He doesn't seem that old, and the contrast between his ideals and what he's facing is not that like black and white. You know, there are like so many nuances. So it's a pretty smart book. Like I don't know if I'm a smart guy to say it's a smart book, but at least it's interesting. So jump into Captain America. It's great. And I don't think it's gonna have so many repercussions, but Captain America, just as Superman, you just love his values being challenged, and whatever comes out of it is always good. Next recommendation for the week. Apparently, Disney and Marvel are like finally doing a crossover. I had no idea that this crossover was gonna be a thing, but like Greg Weisman, who has been writing the Gargoyle books for Dynamite, or like many of them, is doing a crossover with the Fantastic Four. That's so strange. That is so strange. So apparently, it's gonna have something to do with the Gargoyles' secret to eternal life, and they're gonna get help from the Fantastic Four. I don't know. As I said, I just found out today about this crossover. The Fantastic Four and the Gargoyles. I've been eyeing or like reading some of the Gargoyle books on Dynamite, and they have been okay. I don't think they have challenged any scheme at all, or like any, like, what can you say? They're just the Gargoyles. They had this volume where Goliath was charged for I don't know which crime, and he was trialed, and like he went to trial, and like, oh, I'm in jail, and like he defended his humanity in a way throughout this trial. That story was interesting. But the other sort of, you can see that they are trying to keep the Gargoyles in the kid aisle, if you want to say it in some way. You can feel like they don't want to push too hard with it, and probably this is gonna be just a crossover, so probably it's not gonna be that big of a deal. But for novelty's sake, it sounds super interesting. Fantastic Four and the Gargoyles. I'm down with it. I was never that much of a fan of the original series either. I remember seeing some episode as a kid and thinking it was okay, but you could tell like it was like a dark subject, or they tried to give it like a dark, like coat of paint, sort of like a Batman and the animated series, but at the same time they tried to keep it like really kid friendly, so it ended up being like mostly a warm thing in general. So yeah, but at least for curiosity's sake, this week the Fantastic Four are meeting the Gargoyles, I guess. Does this mean that the Gargoyles are Marvel heroes? Who knows? Next recommendation. I just talked about the Hulk, and this more than a recommendation, this is a reminder. Whatever's gonna happen in the Infernal Hulk begins now in the Incredible Hulk number 30. The final confrontation in Hulk's mind space, and the introduction of the new big baddie, the Mother of Horrors, who shows as a warrior, the Abomination. This is it. This is it. That's it. That's all I have to say. If you are interested in the current state of the Hulk, and if you don't want to miss the big status quo change, looking forward to the Infernal Hulk, you gotta pick number 30. You just gotta. Just a quick reminder. Next. Out of the Age of Revelation, like the whole thing they have been releasing, I'm gonna try to be on notice out of all of them. But this is one that picked up my interest, in particular, Iron and Frost. So we knew that in the last volume for Iron Man, they pretended to be married. I mean, Iron Man and Emma Frost, or Tony Stark and Emma Frost. They pretended to be married. So apparently in the Age of Revelation, 10 years from the present, this is going to have some repercussions. Apparently, in this alternative reality, Tony Stark and Emma Frost indeed pursued their courtship further. Not only that, but the Age of Revelation was a tragedy that changed their relationship forever. So if we're not gonna get that relationship in the present, or in the books for now, we're gonna see what could have happened in the future. Not only that, from a tragedy point of view, if you wanna go like past, present, future, present, and we want to rebound between it. I think this is one of the things you can sort of explore, right? What if we stayed a couple? Like, what if 10 years from now something happens that ruins it? Because when they decided to finish, they teased the fact that they enjoy being together, even if it was fake. That was a great ending for that story arc. Like Emma and Tony, they go like, okay, this was interesting. And I remember Tony saying something like, we could give it a shot. And Emma goes like, nah, let's not. But you are cool. So what happened if they did give it a shot? And if these things are gonna rebound back to the present, we're gonna get that sort of closure that we did not have when they parted ways. Interesting. Though the author Kevin Scott, I have to mention, he's been doing a lot of the High Republic, and I do not care for the High Republic. I haven't cared for the High Republic era of Star Wars for like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I just found it so bland. Like they're trying to offer you a new dish, right? Like you ask for the pasta, and they are you mean well we have this another pasta, but this doesn't have tomato sauce. It has like bechamel sauce, and you go like, but it's the same pasta. No, it has a different sauce. You know what I'm trying to say? Fuck it. But anyways, at least this is not gonna be a long thing. This is just gonna be an Age of Revelation sort of title, so that's okay. Next, another quick update. Dan Waters' Nightwing continues, and we're finally getting the big reveal of the Master of Puppets, the new nemesis for Nightwing. Just a quick update on Nightwing that I still been loving this book, even though I read that a lot of people began hating it, and I don't know. I felt like the built-in of Nightwing into the Defender of Bloodhaven has been great. It has allowed the character to like grow a pair of sorts. I don't get tired of saying that Dick Grayson is the one Robin that has been allowed to grow. I might talk about or update on the ongoing Red Hood book that is going on, and of course Tim Drake is part of the current Batman renumbering. Well, the current run of Batman has Tim in it, and they have mentioned Damian as well. But Dick Grayson is the guy that has turned into a character on his own. It just has. And as they sort of solidify his position, it comes into this big new nemesi, big new bad guys to face, like a whole construction of independence, like a whole microcosm of Nightwing. So now they're revealing a new big guy enemy for him, and I couldn't be more down for it. So Nightwing by Dan Waters, now revealing the Master of Puppets. I don't want to do a Metallica reference because I don't really care for Metallica. It's okay though. So, penultimate recommendation for this week in Wonder Woman 26. This is the which one? This is the third story arc for Tom King's Wonder Woman. It has been like awesome. In number 25, they did the big reveal of like the way at the beginning of Tom King's run of Wonder Woman, of this runaway Amazon and her mysterious baby. It turns out from that a whole society spawned of what is it called, the Mouse Men, like a society of dictators and oppression, all of this related to the original case. From that original case of the runaway Amazon, we had Wonder Woman having a kid. What's his name? What is the name of it? I keep forgetting the name of the classic love interest of Wonder Woman, right? But we have that guy on in hell. We had the story of Wonder Woman's daughter, the new Trinity. We had so much shit. Like he managed to expand these characters so much in these past like 26 issues. It's crazy. And what he has achieved for a conclusion or for like a climax of this is what Tom King does better than almost anyone. That is taking a character, like squeezing it to its core and giving you a climax that is nothing but a show of strength, or like a really deep, honest, and raw portrayal of what makes a character great from a value point of view. The way he has written like Diana, like she doesn't talk that much. She only do. She just does stuff. She does stuff. He has so much attitude without saying much. This is not a preachy Wonder Woman. It's a doing Wonder Woman. And as we reach the conclusion of this Mouseman regime, what is more Wonder Woman than Wonder Woman facing like a tyrant? But she's gonna face a tyrant. Like her values are gonna get challenged, but we have all the added elements that made this run new. The daughter, the runaway Amazon, like her new status as a character. What like Diana has grown in these 26 issues. Like I keep saying how you want characters to grow, like she did. It's been great. And Legacy 826, always gonna be 900 issues. But number 26 of Wonder Woman is the climax of the Mouseman Nose storyline. It has been nothing but great. I might cry. I don't know. But if this is not a good jumping point, but it's a good reminder of like go back and read fucking 26 issues of Wonder Woman because they have been great. And Mouseman does know. Mouseman knows. If you read the book, you know what I mean. And one final recommendation for this week in the lighter sense is I'm going to talk about Batman and Superman's World Finest. What they have been doing in this current volume of World Finest is telling stories from the past, or like not so much of the past, but the recent past for Batman and Superman. Of course, they added Robin and Supergirl as teenagers, and it was just so cute. They sort of like made them date. They made them date, but like awkwardly. It was like an awkward sort of relationship. So in this new story, as part of World Finest, Robin and Supergirl are teamed up again. The best thing about the way they portray this is that they use a Batman Superman book to bring more depth to Robin and Supergirl. That's just the truth. And they have done it in quite a charming way. They were awkward together. They were like I don't know. It's like, how can you do a teenage character without being too condescending? That is the point. Teenage characters without just being dumbly condescending and awkward. They were just loving characters, and it was just so fun seeing them being awkward together that I'm totally down for a new story starring both of them. Because Batman and Superman, they have been Batman and Superman for way longer than Supergirl and Robin have been their own characters. So space to grow, of course. And since I'm going way over time with all the news, I'm gonna stop it there. Man, it was a week full of news. Most of them exciting, I guess. I mean, as a comic lover, I can ever not get excited by what they're showing. As I said, Marvel did it a little bit better. I wish DC had explained a little bit more what I already forgot. All In, and the new one is All Out. This is first. I don't know. So I guess part of me is happy that I don't follow all the financial and that sort of shit about this, because then I would add a degree of drama to something that I don't want to add drama to. You know what I mean? But anyways, another good week in comic books, and it will never, like, it will never be bad, I hope. When the answer to the question, what is Spider-Man doing this week, turns sour, then it would be a sad day. But for now, it's a good day. At least for me, and I hope for all of you listening on the other side. Hope you are all reading comics, and if not, what are you waiting for? See you all next week. Read on. Bye bye.